The strength of the Hashira and Demon Slayer. Kimetsu no Yaiba is a topic of much discussion. By looking at the entire series, we can determine the strongest Hashira. The Hashira stand out as some of the strongest heroes in Demon Slayer because they are the only heroes, aside from Tanjiro and his friends, who can battle the strongest demons in the series. The series would not have been able to win any of the subsequent fights without them, as their participation in each fight serves as evidence of their enormous power. Despite the absence of an official name for the strongest swordmaster in the Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba manga, the sheer strength of the Hashira allows one to determine their level of power. Even for those who don't, their many accomplishments throughout the story can compare them. Some have made clear claims about their ability to work with others. With all that in mind, we will reveal to you how the Hashira in Demon Slayer are ranked accordingly. Spoiler alert. This video might contain information that might surprise you if you haven't read the manga yet. Now, if you want us to make more videos like this, please hit the subscribe and like buttons to encourage us to make more anime videos. At number 9, Shinobu Kocho, the insect Hashira. She first appeared in chapter 28 of the manga and episode 15 of the anime. Among the Hashira, Shinobu Kocho's ranking as the weakest should be among the most reasonable. To begin with, Shinobu's own acknowledgement that she is too frail to decapitate a demon makes her an immediate opponent. This makes many fans wonder how she became a Hashira in the first place, when every member of the corps should pass the final selection, just like Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Kanao, Genya, and Inosuke. Well, despite having the least amount of physical strength among the Hashira, she is still a very skilled fighter who can take out any number of demons with ease. Shinobu's insect breathing plays a big role in it, of course, with the use of powerful demon poison extracted from the wisteria flowers. If we will base this ranking on the level of intelligence, Shinobu can turn the table to her favor. Why might that be? Shinobu happens to be an expert pharmacologist, and she managed to develop medicines that can cure injuries that came from the demon. A good example of this is when she manages to turn Zenitsu back to normal after almost turning into a spider demon creature. That there, ladies and gentlemen, is a cue from Season 1 that she will be part of the individuals who will discover the medicine that turns Nezuko back to being a human. Despite all that, it does not mean she will win against a powerful demon like Doma, the Upper Moon too. Doma manages to break down all of Shinobu's poison during their battle. To some extent, it is conceivable that every Upper Moon could do the same when facing Shinobu. After weighing all those things, we should consider Shinobu to be the weakest Hashira when it comes to fighting, but definitely not the least relevant. 8. Tengen Uzui, the Sound Hashira. He first appeared in chapter 44 of the manga and episode 21 of the anime. Tengen Uzui's power ranking among the Hashira relies largely on his tangible feats in the series. Even though Tengen is undoubtedly strong for his role, in their one battle in the series, he almost lost to Gyutaro, also known as the Upper Moon 6. Gyutaro shares his rank with his sister Daki, and they are considered the weakest of the Upper Moon demons. In addition, he still needed Tanjiro and his friend's assistance to win. Well, he is still the very first Hashira who manages to kill an Upper Moon demon after more than 1,000 years. That said, his name will definitely go down the history of the Demon Slayer Corps. Despite his obvious physical superiority over some of the other Hashira, his lackluster performance indicates that his physical prowess may not be sufficient to qualify as Demon Slayer's strongest Hashira. None of that provides a positive statement about Tengen's power. So objectively, it's difficult to consider him a serious competitor against other Hashiras. Even so, Tengen is a formidable opponent, despite the fact that his fights in the series don't always reflect this, because of his persistence and tenacity. Nonetheless, if this ranking talks about the most effective Riz Lords in the entire series, he will sit in the throne as the king. Well, what can you say about having 3 beautiful wives that share him every single day? 7. Mitsuri Kanroji, the Love Hashira. She first appeared in chapter 44 of the manga and episode 21 of the anime. Another Hashira who did a good job of establishing their strength level in their appropriate introduction is Mitsuri Kanroji. In the Swordsmith Village arc, Mitsuri demonstrated impressive resilience against the Upper Moon 4, Hantengu, even though she required assistance to win. Given this, it's easy to see why Mitsuri would earn a decent rank among the Hashira. Unfortunately, in addition to Hantengu being weak compared to some of the other demons, Mitsuri was the least effective of the Hashira in the final fight against Muzan. She was notably the first to be forced to leave the fight in order to recover her strength. But even with these limitations, Mitsuri is still quite powerful and able to pull off some very amazing feats. With all of that, Mitsuri's power level is roughly in the middle of the Hashira. Number 6. Guu Tomoka, the Water Hashira. He first appeared in Chapter 1 of the manga and Episode 1 of the anime. Guu Tomoka was the first Hashira introduced to the series, and is easy to name among the strongest. It is also good to take note that Guu easily defeated Rui, the Lower Moon 5, considering the fact that Tanjiro struggled against him. Moreover, Guu also put up a terrific fight against Akaza, even though he never managed to have the advantage over him. Even with his injuries, Guu was still able to make a significant contribution to the fight against Muzan in the end. He was one of the few Hashira to survive. Truly, it was still an impressive feat. In order to emphasize the mystery and allure of his strength, Guu does not make many appearances in the manga and anime early on. When he eventually does get his time to shine, it's truly a sight to behold, and more than worth the wait. Overall, it is quite evident that Guu is one of the series' most powerful Hashira. Number 5. Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira. He first appeared in Chapter 44 of the manga and Episode 21 of the anime. Kyojuro Rengoku's feats are very similar to Guu Tomoka's, but some important differences justify his higher placement. Both characters fought against Akaza, but Rengoku was shown taking fewer hits than Guu. Rengoku almost defeated Akaza by himself in the Demon Slayer Mugen Train movie, albeit through sunlight, not swordsmanship. Even more impressive is that Rengoku accomplished that without a Demon Slayer mark, whereas Guu needed to use his just to keep up with Akaza. Rengoku and Guu can be seen as somewhat equal in strength, but Rengoku's feats against Akaza are more impressive than Gyu's, so it makes sense to rank him higher among the Hashira. Unfortunately, Rengoku suffered from one of Demon Slayer's saddest deaths, meaning fans never got to see how he would fare against the likes of threats like Muzan. Number 4. Obanai Iguro, the Snake Hashira. He first appeared in Chapter 44 of the manga and Episode 21 of the anime. Obanai Iguro received the least focus and fights of all the Hashira in the Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba franchise, but it's not impossible to judge his power level regardless. During the final fight with Muzan, Iguro's fighting style allowed him to both evade and land numerous attacks. He was one of the few Demon Slayers capable of seeing the transparent world and turning his sword red without help. A bright red Nichiren sword is achieved with the use of special properties for a certain amount of time and is only accessible by Demon Slayers who have awakened the Demon Slayer mark. While this might be a simple thing for many, it is a very remarkable feat that a Hashira can achieve. In the history of the Demon Slayer Corps, there are only a few individuals who managed to turn their swords into bright red Nichiren swords. These include Yoriichi Tsugikuni, Tanjiro Kamado, Muichiro Tokido, and Gyomei Himejima. All of those are very impressive feats for Iguro, but he still mostly played a supportive role in the fight against Muzan. So like Mitsuri Kanroji, it makes the most sense to put Iguro on the higher ground. Still, Obanai's true strength may not have been properly displayed in Demon Slayer, so there is a distinct possibility that the Snake Hashira was actually much stronger than fans got to see. At number 3, Muichiro Tokido, the Mist Hashira. Muichiro, like most on this list, first appeared in Chapter 44 of the manga and Episode 21 of the anime. Muichiro Tokido's proper introduction to the series did a lot to highlight his power. Tokito was established to be a young prodigy, and he more than proved that with how he single-handedly defeated the upper rank 5 Kizuki, Gyoko, This is an impressive achievement considering Toito is only 14, making him the youngest Hashira by a decent margin. However, Yoko was objectively one of the weaker Kizuki, and since Tokido needed his Demon Slayer mark to defeat him, that feat ended up being even less impressive. Add in how easily Tokido was overpowered by Kokushibo, and how he could only provide support, and it's easy to see Tokido as falling to the weaker side of the Hashira. Despite this, Tokido has quite a bit of potential, and could eventually surpass the other Hashira, if given enough time. Take note, he was just 14 when he became this powerful, so imagine how powerful he can be when he reaches the age of Gyomei. Number 2. Sami Shinazugawa, the Wind Hashira. He first appeared in chapter 45 of the manga and episode 22 of the anime. Sami Shinazugawa is another Hashira whose placement has very explicit justification in the series. In the fight with Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, Sanemi was stated to be one of the 2 strongest Hashira in the history of the Demon Slayer Corps. Accordingly, Sanemi was extremely effective against Muzan and Kokushibo, dealing a lot of damage in both battles, even when other characters stumbled. In addition to everything else, Sanemi ended up being one of the few Hashira to survive the final fight with Muzan, and that should certainly say a lot about his overall power. Still though, as powerful and impressive as Sanemi is, even he couldn't compete against Demon Slayer's strongest Hashira. For number 1, Gyomei Himejima, the Stone Hashira. He first appeared in chapter 44 of the manga and episode 21 of the anime. Gyomei Himejima's placement among the Hashira should be the most straightforward to defend. He is explicitly stated on multiple occasions to be the most powerful Hashira. He is the first Demon Slayer in history who successfully delivers fatal damage to Muzan after the activation of the sacrificial trap of Kagaya. Going right along with that, he was also able to deal incredible damage to Kokushibo. With the collective efforts of Muchiro, Sanemi, Gyomei, and Genya Shinazugawa, Kokushibo was defeated. Furthermore, he played a big part in the final fight against Muzan in the Infinity Castle arc. Not only that, but Himejima was one of the few characters able to see the transparent world, adding even more to his already impressive power. Himejima is also an interesting character with a tragic backstory that makes him so much more than just his strength. Given his penchant for crying, it's easy to mistake Himejima for someone weaker, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Taking all of that into account, it's more than easy to see Gyomei Himejima as the strongest Hashira in the series. How would you rank the Hashiras? Leave a comment and tell us about it. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe.